Major Diana Phoenix Vega walked briskly across the flight line at dawn, her movements confident and purposeful. The first rays of sunlight stretched long shadows across the tarmac, casting an almost surreal glow on the aircraft awaiting their missions. The quiet hum of activity felt like the calm before a storm. Fellow pilots nodded respectfully as she passed, acknowledging her presence. Phoenix didn't need to prove herself, her reputation had already been earned. But today, everything felt different. The mission was critical, no doubt, but it wasn't just the mission that made her uneasy. The unexpected arrival of General Marcus Harrington added a layer of tension she couldn't shake. Have you ever seen someone underestimated, only to surprise everyone? If you believe in powerful, raw stories like these, subscribe and help us share the quiet legends among us, capable of extraordinary feats. Phoenix was used to pressure, but today felt off. Something wasn't right, and Harrington's arrival only confirmed that feeling. His cold expression as he walked toward her was unsettling, and she couldn't understand why he was here. Without saying a word, Harrington motioned for her to step aside. A private conversation? Phoenix's heart skipped a beat, but she quickly pushed the feeling away. She followed him away from the flight line, away from the prying eyes of the other pilots. They would be whispering about this, but they didn't know yet. Major Vega, Harrington's voice broke the silence. A word? Of course, sir, Phoenix replied, standing tall, her posture impeccable. She wouldn't let anything make her falter. Harrington wasted no time. His next words hit her like a punch. You're being removed from today's mission roster. What? The word echoed in her mind, but she didn't react. May I ask why, sir? She asked, her voice calm, controlled. The assessment is that you're not adequately prepared for this particular operation, he said coldly, eyes unwavering. Phoenix blinked, confusion rushing through her. With all due respect, sir, I've been preparing for this mission for 3 weeks. My simulation scores are. This isn't about your technical readiness, Major, Harrington interrupted. This is my assessment of overall mission requirements. Phoenix's heart sank. She had worked tirelessly for this mission, and now she was being told it wasn't her time to fly. The animosity between her and Harrington had been building for years, dating back to Bull. This wasn't about readiness, it was personal. She knew it. He knew it. And she wouldn't fight it, not now. Harrington extended his hand. Your mission tablet, please. Phoenix handed it over, the tablet feeling heavier than ever. Captain Mercer will be taking your place, Harrington continued. Report to Colonel Weaver for reassignment after the mission window closes. Phoenix held his gaze, her face a mask of neutrality. Yes, sir, she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. Harrington nodded and walked away, his aides following closely behind. Phoenix stood there for a moment, knowing that her squadron was watching. They would soon learn what had happened. Captain Ellis, her wingman, approached cautiously, his voice filled with concern. Phoenix, what's going on? Change of plans, Captain, Phoenix said flatly. You'll be flying with Mercer today. That's insane. Ellis exclaimed, disbelief in his voice. This is your mission. You designed half the approach vectors. Phoenix shook her head. Orders are orders, Captain. Mercer's a good pilot. He'll get you home safely. She didn't give him a chance to respond. She turned sharply and walked toward the operations building, each step deliberate. She wouldn't let anyone see her falter, not now, not ever. Inside the operations building, Phoenix entered the quiet women's locker room. It was empty, the silence heavy around her. She took a deep breath, allowing the stillness to calm her before she began removing her flight gear. The suit came off first, folded neatly, even though it would be sent for cleaning. Her name patches and squadron insignia followed, carefully placed in her personal kit. It was a ritual, a small moment of control amidst the chaos. When she opened her locker to store her gear, her gaze fell on a photograph she hadn't seen in years. It was a picture of 5 soldiers in desert camouflage, standing in front of an unremarkable building in Afghanistan. 3 of the faces were blacked out, classified. The 4th was Lieutenant Connor Harrington, the general's son, smiling confidently. And the 5th was Phoenix herself, though she wore the silver eagles of a full colonel back then. How much had changed? How much had stayed the same? Her fingers brushed the edge of the photo for a moment, the edges worn with time, and she closed her locker with a soft thud. Politics is a hell of a thing, isn't it? She muttered under her breath, her eyes lingering on the photo for just a second longer. But there was no time to dwell on the past. She had a mission to focus on, and that was all that mattered now. Just then, Colonel Jeffrey Weaver, the base commander, stepped into the locker room. His expression was uneasy, as if he wasn't sure how to handle the situation. But Phoenix didn't have time for hesitation. She wasn't interested in excuses or small talk. She was focused on the mission ahead, and that was all that mattered. Harrington's had it out for you since Kabul, Weaver said quietly, moving closer. We both know this isn't about readiness. Phoenix kept her voice steady, her gaze unwavering. It doesn't matter why, sir. He's the commanding officer, his call. We lose our best pilot for a critical mission because of his personal vendetta, and it doesn't matter. Weaver asked, shaking his head in disbelief. I could intervene. One call to 8th Air Force, and... No, sir, Phoenix cut him off firmly. That would only complicate matters. Weaver looked at her for a moment longer, his expression filled with frustration and perhaps a hint of understanding. Sometimes, I forget you outranked all of us once. I've never asked why you accepted the demotion and transfer. Phoenix didn't flinch. Classified, Colonel, she replied simply, unwilling to elaborate. Weaver let out a deep sigh. Report to my office at 1400. I'll have new orders for you by then. Phoenix nodded, grabbing her duffel bag and heading out of the locker room. She didn't look back. There was no need. She had a mission to prepare for, and that was all that mattered. As she passed by the other pilots gathered for the pre-mission briefing, their conversations faltered. They exchanged uneasy glances, their eyes flicking to her, full of unspoken questions. Phoenix ignored them. She had learned long ago not to be distracted by the curiosity of others. The weight of their unasked questions pressed on her, but she didn't let it slow her down. Outside, the sun had risen fully, casting a warm, golden light across the tarmac. Phoenix paused for a moment, her gaze lifting to the rotating satellite dish on the communications building. It moved slowly, tracking something far beyond her reach, far beyond anyone's reach. She couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just another mission. There was something more at play here, something no one else had figured out yet. But Phoenix had. She had figured it out, and no one else knew it, at least, not yet. Her secure phone buzzed sharply in her pocket, snapping her out of her thoughts. She pulled it out and read the brief message, "Stand by for direct contact. Authorization Chess Protocol." Her heart skipped a beat. Chess Protocol. The words hit her hard, settling deep in her chest. She deleted the message without a second thought and slid the phone back into her pocket. Time was running out. She needed to get to the briefing, but there was so much more happening here than anyone realized. The rest of the base, the personnel preparing for the mission, they didn't know what was coming. They didn't know what Phoenix knew. She turned back toward the operations building, her mind racing. It was time to prepare. Time to act. She was the only one who could lead this mission. Whatever it took, she would be ready. As she entered the briefing room, the tension was palpable. General Marcus Harrington stood at the front, exuding the confidence of someone accustomed to total control. His posture was straight, his voice commanding as it resonated through the room, demanding attention from every officer present. The large screen behind him displayed satellite imagery of a rugged mountain range, a small compound hidden deep within a narrow valley. The team before him, consisting of experienced pilots, intelligence officers, and tactical personnel, listened intently, understanding the gravity of the mission. Operation Nightshade is time-sensitive and critical to national security, Harrington began, his voice grave. Our target is a weapons research facility with potential WMD capabilities. Intelligence suggests they are in the final stages of testing a new delivery system. The room was silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Everyone knew this mission had no margin for error. Failure was not an option. Harrington turned and gestured to the tactical officer, who quickly displayed a 3D rendering of the target area. The compound was isolated, surrounded by rugged terrain that would make an already dangerous mission even more challenging. We have a narrow window, Harrington continued. A stealth approach is mandatory. The nearby air defense network is highly sophisticated, making this a high-risk insertion. But the intelligence we've gathered justifies the risk. Captain Ellis, sitting at the front, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. His eyes flicked to the empty seat beside him, the one where Major Phoenix Vega should have been. Her absence was impossible to ignore. She had designed the approach for this mission. She was supposed to be here. Something didn't feel right. Captain Mercer will lead the primary strike team, Harrington continued, nodding toward the pilot who would replace Phoenix. Captain Ellis will provide tactical support. The rest of the squadron will secure the extraction corridor. Mercer straightened in his seat, his new role weighing heavily on him. Thank you, sir. I'm prepared to execute, he said, his voice steady, though there was a nervous edge. Good, Harrington acknowledged, then turned to Major Carson, the senior intelligence officer. Major Carson will brief you on the target package. Carson stepped forward, his usual confidence slightly shaken. The primary objective is to extract data from their central servers, followed by precision strikes on their testing facilities, he explained. We're particularly interested in the encryption system they've developed. He paused, brow furrowed. This encryption system is unlike anything we've encountered before. It resembles advanced quantum protection systems, far beyond what we should expect from this group. A murmur rippled through the room. The stakes had just been raised. Lieutenant Commander Walsh, a sharp-minded naval intelligence analyst at the back of the room, leaned forward. Major, those signatures match chess protocol parameters, she said, her voice calm but urgent. If this is true, we'll need specialized access protocols to avoid triggering their failsafes. Harrington's eyes narrowed, locking onto her. Lieutenant Commander, that assessment is out of line. Chess protocol is irrelevant to this briefing, he snapped. Walsh didn't back down. With all due respect, General, these signatures are unmistakable. I worked on related systems at Fort Meade. If this is derived from chess protocol, our standard infiltration methods will trigger failsafes. Enough, Commander, Harrington snapped, cutting her off. This is a straightforward data extraction and strike mission. The room fell into an uneasy silence. The discomfort was palpable, and Ellis exchanged a glance with the others. A junior officer at the back whispered to his colleague, wasn't Phoenix part of some classified program before she transferred here? The question hung in the air, unanswered. Phoenix's absence now seemed more than just unusual, it felt wrong. Something was missing. They didn't know it yet, but they were about to. Ignoring the murmurs, Harrington pressed on. Weather report. The meteorological officer hesitated. Conditions are deteriorating, sir. Cloud cover is thickening, and thunderstorms are expected. Visibility will be under 2 miles by the estimated time of arrival. Security assessment. Harrington demanded, his voice sharp. The security analyst updated the room quickly. Satellite imagery from 30 minutes ago shows increased movement at the facility. Guard patrols have doubled, and additional radar systems have been activated. They appear to have been alerted. The mission success probability dropped from 78% to 64%, and the room tensed even further. Captain Mercer, Harrington asked, a hint of frustration creeping into his voice, given the increased security and worsening weather, should we consider revising our approach? Major Vega had designed an alternative insertion route through the eastern ridge, which might provide better cover. Mercer hesitated, looking around at the others, but before he could respond, Harrington's voice cut through the air, firm and decisive. "Captain, I've made my decision. We're proceeding as planned. Major Vega is not part of this operation. Is that clear?" Mercer, clearly uncomfortable, nodded, his voice quieter now. "Yes, sir." The atmosphere had shifted. It wasn't just about the mission anymore, it was about everything they thought they knew. Before anyone could fully process the tension building in the room, the door swung open. A communications officer rushed in, his face flushed, and breath short. "General Harrington, sir," he panted. "The Secretary of Defense is on Secure Line 1. He's requesting immediate connection to this briefing." Harrington froze. "The Secretary? Here. The Secretary?" Harrington asked, confusion flickering across his face. "Yes, sir," the officer confirmed. "His office insists on a visual connection to the entire briefing room." Harrington's mind raced, and he gave a sharp nod. "Patch him through." The screen flickered for a moment, then stabilized, revealing the stern face of the Secretary of Defense. Behind him stood several high-ranking officers, their expressions serious and grim. "General Harrington," the Secretary began without preamble, "I'm overriding your command decision. Put checkmate on the roster. She flies." A stunned silence filled the room. Every person in the room froze. Harrington's face drained of color, and his authoritative demeanor faltered for the first time. He could hardly believe what he had just heard. "Sir," Harrington stammered, his voice unsteady, "I'm not familiar with the call sign, checkmate. There's no pilot with that designation in my command." The Secretary's face remained impassive. Operation Chess Protocol was established 5 years ago under Colonel Diana Vega, before her rank adjustment and transfer. She created the encryption algorithm your target is attempting to replicate. The revelation rocked the room. Captain Ellis straightened in his seat, disbelief crossing his face. He turned to Harrington, his mind spinning as he processed the new information. "Colonel Vega engineered Chess Protocol as a quantum encryption system to protect our most sensitive communications," the Secretary continued. "The facility you're targeting has obtained partial schematics of that system. Major Vega isn't just another part of this mission. She is the only one who can complete it." Harrington's voice shook. "Sir, with all due respect, I wasn't informed that Major Vega had any connection to this technology or that she previously held colonel rank." The Secretary's response was sharp. "Correct. You weren't cleared to know. Major Vega's operational history was classified at the highest levels, for both national security and her personal safety." The room was stunned. Officers exchanged glances, processing the weight of the truth. Even Lieutenant Commander Walsh, who had identified the Chess Protocol signatures, sat in stunned silence. Then, in the midst of the shock, the door opened. Major Phoenix Vega walked in, fully suited in flight gear, as though nothing had changed. The room went silent. Every eye turned toward her. A senior advisor behind the Secretary stood and saluted Phoenix. One by one, others followed suit, showing their respect for the officer who had just moments ago been sidelined. "My God," Walsh whispered in disbelief. "She's checkmate." Phoenix walked calmly to the front of the room, her presence undeniable. She stopped beside Harrington, and with a steady voice, she turned to the Secretary. "Sir, I'm prepared to resume command of the mission," Phoenix said. The Secretary nodded. "Proceed, Colonel." The use of her former rank was not lost on anyone in the room. Harrington stood frozen, his mind still reeling. "Sir," Phoenix said, turning to him with perfect military courtesy. "With your permission, I need to update the mission parameters." Harrington, still shaken, nodded stiffly, stepping aside as Phoenix took control of the tactical display. She entered a complex code, reconfiguring the mission's data. "What you're seeing is the true nature of our objective," Phoenix explained calmly. "The target facility isn't just trying to replicate chess protocol. They're trying to crack it. If they succeed, every secure communication system in our military network will be compromised." As Phoenix continued, Harrington's eyes moved to a document that had just appeared on his tablet. It detailed the operation in Kabul, revealing the truth about his son, Lieutenant Connor Harrington. Connor had died protecting Phoenix during the final implementation of chess protocol. His son's death had been a lie, his sacrifice had never been fully understood by Harrington. Phoenix turned to the pilots. "This isn't just about preventing technology theft," she said, her voice commanding. "If we fail, we compromise the security of every deployed force. Captain Ellis, you're my wingman. Captain Mercer, you lead the secondary team with these modified parameters." She turned back to Harrington, her voice resolute. "General, we need to launch immediately. The window is narrowing." For the first time in his career, General Harrington was left speechless. The officer he had systematically undermined wasn't just capable, she was irreplaceable. "The mission is yours, Colonel," Harrington finally said. Phoenix nodded. "Gear up. We launch in 15 minutes. The briefing room erupted into activity. As Phoenix moved toward the door, Harrington noticed every person she passed straightened, offering subtle nods of respect. The transformation was complete. The truth had been revealed, and nothing would ever be the same again. The flight line erupted into intense activity as pilots scrambled toward their aircraft. The mission's urgency had taken on an entirely new level of significance after Phoenix's revelations. The ground crews, now working with heightened focus, moved with sharp efficiency. The confusion and uncertainty had been replaced by a single purpose, to execute the mission flawlessly. Phoenix walked toward her aircraft, her every step exuding authority, the kind that had been hidden for so long. Crew chiefs and technicians, who had long respected her abilities, now regarded her with a different kind of reverence. The transformation in how they saw her was not lost on her, but Phoenix didn't let it distract her. She was focused on the mission ahead. There was no time for anything else. Captain Ellis jogged to catch up with her, adjusting his flight helmet. "I always knew you were overqualified for this outfit," he said, trying to lighten the mood, though his shock was evident. "But Colonel, creator of chess protocol, that's a hell of a secret to keep." Phoenix shot him a quick glance, her voice unwavering. "Focus on the mission parameters, Captain," she said, maintaining her professional tone. "This target is more complex than anything we've faced before." "Understood, ma'am," Ellis replied, now clearly acknowledging her true authority. There was a subtle change in his voice, a newfound respect. As Phoenix neared her aircraft, she saw General Harrington walking quickly across the tarmac toward her. His face was a mix of emotions, shock, confusion, and something that almost seemed like remorse. The ground crew discreetly found reasons to check the aircraft, giving them the privacy to talk. "Colonel Harrington," he started, but then corrected himself, "Major. I need to address what happened." Phoenix met his gaze directly, her expression calm but firm. "This isn't the time, sir. We have a critical window that's closing." "I need to say this," Harrington insisted, his voice uncharacteristically uncertain. "I just read the file on Kabul. I didn't know about your demotion after the operation, about what you sacrificed to protect the protocol, about what really happened with Connor." Phoenix's face remained composed, though there was a flicker of something in her eyes at the mention of his son. "Your son was a hero, sir," she said quietly. "He knew the risks of chess protocol. So did I. Now, we have a mission to complete." Harrington nodded, his military bearing reasserting itself. "The secretary was right. You're the only one who can lead this. I won't interfere further." Phoenix acknowledged this with a slight nod, then turned back toward her aircraft. She climbed into the cockpit, but before settling in, Ellis came over for final instructions. "Orders, Phoenix?" he asked, his voice steady but filled with respect. "Stay tight on my wing during insertion," she said, her voice sharp with tactical precision. "The valley has a crosswind pattern that doesn't show up on standard readings. We'll need to adjust our approach vector at these coordinates." She handed him a data card. "Download this to your navigation system. It contains authentication protocols to prevent triggering any chess derivatives they may have operational." Ellis took the card, clearly impressed by her level of detail. "Understood. The team's ready," he added. Phoenix nodded, then climbed into her cockpit. As she performed pre-flight checks, she could feel the difference. The crew, the other pilots, they were looking at her differently now. The truth had changed everything. But the mission still took precedence. Always. One by one, the aircraft taxied into position. Phoenix's jet was the last to take off, its afterburners glowing brightly as it sped down the runway. The squadron formed up in perfect formation, heading toward the darkening skies. In the Mission Control Center, General Harrington stood in front of the tactical display, surrounded by intelligence officers and communication specialists. His demeanor had shifted subtly, he was less commanding now, more observant. The Secretary of Defense remained connected via secure video link, watching as the operation unfolded. "Squadron is approaching the first waypoint," the flight controller reported. "Weather conditions are deteriorating as expected." On the tactical display, Phoenix's aircraft broke formation first, leading her element into a maneuver that didn't match the pre-planned approach vectors. Harrington frowned for a moment, then realized what she was doing. "She's using the mountain's electromagnetic shadow to mask their approach," he murmured, almost to himself. "Brilliant," Walsh commented. "Classic chess methodology, using environmental factors to create signal gaps that appear natural." As the mission progressed, Harrington watched Phoenix's tactical brilliance unfold. She directed the squadron using shorthand commands and protocols that weren't standard procedure, but her methods worked, remarkably well. When unexpected resistance arose, Phoenix adapted with a level of precision that demonstrated her deep knowledge of the target and its defenses. Approaching primary target, Phoenix's voice came through the comms, calm and focused. "Executing Rook maneuver." Walsh leaned toward Harrington. "That's a chess protocol infiltration strategy, sir. It was theorized, but never documented in standard tactical guides." Harrington nodded, watching as Phoenix's aircraft executed a series of calculated movements that avoided triggering the target's advanced defense systems. The rest of the squadron followed her lead without hesitation. "Target acquired," Phoenix reported. "Beginning data extraction. Maintain defensive posture." For several tense minutes, the Mission Control Center watched closely as Phoenix's aircraft held position while the specialized systems worked to extract vital intelligence. When enemy reinforcements appeared on radar, Phoenix calmly redirected two elements of the squadron to intercept, predicting their approach with uncanny accuracy. "Data extraction complete," Phoenix's voice came again. "Initiating precision strike on research facilities." The tactical display showed a flawless attack. Each aircraft hit its target with surgical precision, no shots wasted. "Target neutralized," the communications officer reported with relief. "Chess protocol elements secured. No casualties." A spontaneous cheer erupted in the control center, but it was quickly subdued by professionalism. Even the Secretary of Defense, watching the operation unfold, allowed himself a small smile of satisfaction. "Well executed, Colonel," he said, using her former rank without hesitation. "Bring your team home." "Yes, sir," Phoenix responded simply, maintaining her calm demeanor. As the squadron returned to base, Harrington watched the tactical display with a new perspective. The woman he had undermined for so long had just executed one of the most flawless special operations he had ever witnessed. And she had done it while enduring years of his unwarranted animosity without protest. Landing operations proceeded with textbook precision. When Phoenix's aircraft taxied to a stop, something unexpected happened. Ground crew members and other pilots who hadn't participated in the mission formed an impromptu honor line. No one had ordered it. It happened naturally, out of respect. Phoenix climbed down from her cockpit, removed her helmet, and walked through the honor line with quiet dignity. No words were exchanged. There was no need. The respect was mutual, and the shared experience spoke volumes. The debriefing was swift and thorough. Phoenix's detailed knowledge allowed for a quick assessment of the mission's success. Afterward, she found herself alone with General Harrington in his office. The evening sun cast long shadows through the windows as Harrington silently placed a folder on his desk and pushed it toward her. Inside were the fully declassified documents related to the Kabul operation from 5 years earlier. Photos showed Phoenix, then Colonel Vega, working alongside Lieutenant Connor Harrington on the original chess protocol. Other documents revealed her request for demotion and transfer, specifically designed to protect the operation's cover. All these years, Harrington's voice was subdued. I blamed you for Connor's death. I convinced myself you made errors that cost him his life. Phoenix stood tall, her expression unwavering. Your son died protecting the protocol, sir. He understood its importance. So did I. You accepted my demotion, my transfer, and years of scrutiny instead of revealing the truth. Harrington shook his head slowly. Why didn't you ever say anything? The security of chess protocol was paramount, Phoenix replied simply. My personal considerations were secondary. Harrington stood, saluting her, this time, with profound respect. The Secretary of Defense called while you were in debriefing, he said. He wants you back at the Pentagon, Colonel. Your cover assignment has served its purpose. Chess protocol security is no longer contingent on your anonymity. Phoenix paused, considering. There's still work to be done here, sir, she said finally. The squadron needs proper training on the techniques we use today. They performed admirably, but they need to understand the principles, not just follow my lead. I'll inform the Secretary, Harrington said, clearly impressed by her focus. How long do you need? 2 weeks should be enough, Phoenix replied. After that, I'll report to the Pentagon. Very good, Colonel. Harrington extended his hand. For what it's worth, I owe you an apology. Several, in fact. Phoenix accepted the handshake. We serve as best we can with the information we have, General. You didn't have all the facts. As sunset bathed the base in golden light, Phoenix walked across the tarmac. Junior pilots who once knew her only as the quiet, competent Major Vega now watched her with newfound respect. Some nodded as she passed, others stood straighter. Captain Ellis fell in step beside her. So, Colonel, what happens now? Now we train, Phoenix replied. The squadron needs to understand what they experienced today. And after that, when you go back to being Colonel Vega at the Pentagon? Phoenix allowed herself a rare smile. The mission continues, Captain. It always does. She absently touched the name badge on her flight suit, the one that had identified her as Vega for 5 long years. In the setting sun, it briefly seemed to flicker between Vega and Checkmate, before settling back to its usual appearance. The truth had been revealed, dignity restored. But for Phoenix, the most important outcome wasn't personal vindication. It was the mission's success, and the security it had ensured. Recognition had never been her goal, only the quiet satisfaction of duty fulfilled, regardless of who knew the truth. As she walked toward the setting sun, her step steady and resolute, others could finally see the weight of her sacrifice. The world, and her role in it, would never be the same again. Thanks for joining us on this intense ride. If it resonated, hit subscribe, ring the bell, don't miss out. Here's to the silent sacrifices, together, we're unstoppable. See you next time.